Theos fell asleep thinking of everything he had learned about his mother. His parents never talked about their pasts much, and now he could see why. While he had been able to read everyone from an early age to some degree, he had never fought to read either of his parents. Though Zion had shared memories of his travels and day-to-day dealings with the boys directly instead of having to recount a story, Theos had never been able to see more than what his father meant to share in that moment. Theos slept in the hole behind the rock that night, while Sam kept watch in the tree above. They woke the next morning with the sun just below the horizon. "I assume you know your brother's scent. You will be able to find him when you get him?" Sam asked as he turned to exit the tunnel. "Yes, I can find him, but where are you going?" Theos asked, puzzled by Sam's departure. "There is no reason for two of us to be creeping around the house of wine. I will wait for you in the branches of this tree. Get your brother, and get out, then meet me here. And remember, if there is water at the other end of the tunnel, wash yourself in it to hide your scent." Theos followed the tunnel until it opened up into the biggest wine cellar he had ever seen. He was almost drunk from the fragrance before he reached the cellar stairs. Theos entered a hallway, and due to the lack of windows, he guessed he was still underground. He heard footsteps as his brother's scent came to his nose, but before he could investigate, a hand grabbed his shoulder. Theos turned to face his captor, and a quick look in his eye revealed him to be his uncle Nilus. "I see you found our old tunnel," Nilus said as he caught the hand Theos had meant to hit him with. "Where is my brother?" Theos yelled. "Derek is eating breakfast. Come with me, and I will set a place for you." Nilus replied with a gentle smile. "I just want to take my brother and go." Theos yelled again as Nilus turned and dragged him down the hallway. "Nonsense, I will not have it said that my nephews are not welcome at my father's table." Theos was dragged up the corridors until the two of them reached a large dining hall. Inside, light flooded through large stained glass windows, illuminating a long table lined with rabbit and root vegetables. Max, a shrewd old fox, sat at the head of the table with Oxel on his left. Beside Oxel sat a woman Theos guessed was his wife. She was a blue-furred fox, and next to her sat three daughters in order from eldest to youngest. On Max's right Derek sat, and next to him there was an empty chair Theos guessed belonged to Nilus, and his brown-haired wife next to it with his two daughters sitting beside her. "What is he doing here?" Oxel yelled as he stood and locked eyes with Theos. "He is my guest," Nilus replied calmly. "He has no right," Oxel proclaimed. "Sit down and stop making a fool of yourself, son. Any blood of mine is welcome at my table." Max barked as he gave Oxel a sharp glance. "Theos, was it? I understand you have already met your uncles Oxel and Nilus. Ladies, would you please rise and introduce yourselves?" Max said as he took a sip from his cup. Oxel's family stood first and his wife began. "My name is Sherry and these are my girls Ozels, Anius, and Amora." She took her seat and Nilus' family stood. "My name is Brandy and this is Claret and Kira." Theos was angry with Oxel's outburst, but he remembered his manners and gave a low bow. "My name is Theos. I am Ozio's eldest living son." "Very good. Oxel, give the boy your seat so that he can sit with his brother," Max commanded as Theos approached the table. Theos could feel Oxel's rage without looking in his eyes. He could not comprehend his uncle's jealousy. Theos sat down at the table as the lesser servants scrambled to set Oxel a new place at the table, and Sherry passed him a plate of scrambled eggs and rabbit. The girls to his left began to giggle as they looked down the table at him, and Kara broke the awkward silence that came as the giggles stopped. "Theos, father says you are a prince, is that true?" "I am a prince of the Aranim, yes," Theos replied, taking a bite of his rabbit. "You do not act like any prince I have ever heard of." Anius snickered. "I am, and so is Derek," Theos insisted. "And I will be king, like my father before me." "Your father was a fool," Max grumbled at the mention of Zion. Theos gave a low growl in return. "If you hated my father and mother, then why take my brother from me?" he demanded as he slammed his fork down. Max stopped eating and locked eyes with Theos. "Leave us," He commanded with an almost unnerving calm. Father, both Oxel and Neelis began in protest. "Leave us." Max commanded again before either of them could continue, and everyone seemed to be jolted to action by his words, and cleared the table without further protest. "Father, I am still hungry." Amora complained as they left the room. "We can finish breakfast later," Oxel replied as he closed the door behind him. "Not you, boy. You stay," Max said as Derek pushed away from the table. Derek, Theos, and Max sat at the table, the tension in the room so thick it could be cut with a knife. "Your father was a man with the heart of a boy, hiding behind the power of a goddess," Max began as he stroked his chin and watched as the boys processed his words. Theos began to retort, but Max raised his hand and continued. "Those are not my words, they are my daughter's, your mother's. That is the last thing she said to me before she left for the desert. She believed he could be a great king someday if he had the right guidance and backing, maybe even the king of all beasts of the field. And she asked that I support him. I told her helping fools is a bad investment." He took a sip of his drink and continued. "As for your brother, he is in my care because I wanted to save the heir of the House of Wine from following the same foolish path. To think that predator and prey could be equal, much less scales, fur, and feather. That is what got your parents killed, and you are on the same path to ruin," Max said as he focused his gaze on Theos. "You have no idea how to rule other than by force and fear, and that creates nothing but resentment and rebellion in those you wish to rule." Theos thought about all he had learned about his mother since coming to the forest. Then he thought of his father and all she had given up to be with him. Looking into his grandfather's eyes, he saw the compassion hiding behind the stern, calculating demeanor of the old fox. Theos could feel the regret Max felt in his heart for the way he treated his daughter, that he was never able to build a relationship with her, and that raising Derek was somehow penance. "Derek, do you want to come home?" Theos asked, almost pleading as he turned his attention to his younger brother, who was using his fork to play with a piece of meat on his plate. "Not really, big brother. I will miss you, but it is nice here," Derek replied. "The forest is really cool, and Uncle Neelis is really kind to me." Theos could see his heart break before he asked, "Won't you stay with us? Can he please, grandfather?" Derek pleaded as he looked up at Max. "No. The desert needs a king," Theos replied before Max could answer. "If you want to be a real king, better than your father, do not hide behind his sword or live in his shadow." Max paused for a moment and took another sip of his wine. "Great kings are like great swords. They are not born, they are forged, tempered through experience, and calm and calculated, not swinging blindly at their ambitions." "What should I do, grandfather, to keep from becoming like my father?" "Let the world be your crucible. Go out and suffer hardships. Let adventure temper you, and see the world for what it is. Then, maybe someday, you could become a king I could support. Now finish your breakfast, I have other matters to attend to." Theos went back to the grove and met Sam in the old tree. "Where is your brother?" Sam asked as he came down from the tree and took his human form. "He is staying with grandfather here in the forest," Theos replied. "You told Neelis I was coming, didn't you, Sam?" "Yes. I thought you needed to come to terms with your grandfather instead of starting conflict within the Fox clan by killing him." "Thank you, Sam," Theos replied with a nod as he thought of his grandfather's words. "Do you know the way to the lake in the southeast?" he asked. "Yes, I know it," Sam replied. "Will you take me there? I want to speak with the river wolf Riolobo." "Why would you want to speak with him?" Sam asked with a look of intrigue. "I want to learn how to swim and how to use rain magic for myself. My father could do neither, and I think that will be the first step to surpassing him." Sam smiled as he thought to himself, "The boy looks like his father, but he is thinking like his mother." Sam changed to a crow and cawed, "Keep up," as he flew to a pine branch and turned to make sure Theos was in tow. Theos smiled, changed to a fox, and sprinted off after him, And so began the adventures of Theos.